Three, two, and one. All right, and welcome back to the now midweek version of the Reserve Squad. This is something we've done a couple of times now, and yeah, we seem to like it. So yeah, we decided to do another one. Um, and there were a lot of things that happened this past Sunday that we want to get off our chest. So we'll lead with that. Man City does find a way to come back and win the EPL title. Yes, Liverpool fans do get to relive the 2018-19 season where they just miss out by a point. We didn't get a whole lot of drama with the top four race. Sorry, Rex. Both Spurs and Arsenal took care of their business. But hey, you maybe got some good news with Roma yesterday, so we'll talk about that as well. And we did get a lot of fun, at least with Burnley and Leeds for the relegation.
Yeah,
So we did get a little
yeah,
drama with
true.
that. And the season's not done yet. We still have the Champions League final to get into and talk about. So pretty excited about that. And got a few other things. So with that said, I'm your host Ben, and I'm joined by once again by fellow squad member Rex. So Rex, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Ben. I like these midweek things. It's more family friendly, right? Not as much cursing when you have
That's it.
Alex and Jeremy.
All right, and so we kind of tease it up a little bit. I feel like the best way to kind of do this is to maybe run down both games at the same time and kind of do a real time update on like how things happened. So
Yeah,
we'll
as we were watching, basically,
yeah,
it's the same
yeah,
order. I
because
like that.
because it happened at the same time. And so I just like gotten to my seat, had my lunch in hand, and within 3 minutes Liverpool concede. and so it had started to become a little bit of a theme the last few games for them. I think for the last four in the league they actually conceded first. So hopefully they don't do that versus Madrid. But
Ooh,
it's just a simple ball kicked over the top that I think Jimenez is able to run onto, and he squares it to Pedro Neto. Allison doesn't really have a chance, and just yeah, Liverpool are caught out, and 3 minutes in, it's really good for City fans. And then
yeah,
finally, I guess I think in the 24th minute, Mane is able to equalize it, and so it's a very clever flick by Thiago. This goal doesn't happen without Thiago, and that'll be another thing we'll talk about later. But yeah, Mane is able to make a clever run in behind, and he does a very calm finish. And really, for the second part of the season, Mane has maybe been Liverpool's best forward player. Um, you know, in fact, that might not even be up for debate. He's been moved centrally since coming back from Afcon, and he is really excelled in that formation or in that role. And so it was only fitting for me for him to score that. And right around that same time, or a couple minutes later, Villa finally start to do their end of the bargain. And what was it Jeremy said? City beaten by cash or something like that.
oh yeah, yeah. Ironic. It's Man City beaten by Cash.
So a ball is crossed in, and Medicash is able to beat Cancelo to head it in, and it was hard for me not to start feeling a little something, Rex. Kind of watching that, they were starting to have this build up. You give up the early goal, but I don't know. There's this think of can this happen? So just we'll kind of pause it right there. I mean, Rex, were you still watching Arsenal at this point, or what were you thinking during all this?
Yeah, I think I was watching Arsenal, but the scores kept coming up on the top. So like anytime I saw a score change, I would immediately switch over. And honestly, with both Liverpool and City, they're so good that even they both went down when they went down by one each. I was like, oh, they're going to turn the screw. They're going to turn things up a notch. They'll be fine. And I guess it happened with Liverpool too. But honestly, when they scored that first goal, Mane in the 24th minute, I was like, okay, now goals are going to come like immediately. They're probably going to be flowing. And it really took them until the 84th and 89th minute to get the
Yeah,
second and third. And then with City, I was kind of the same way. I was like, oh, 1-0 down, like it's Pep. They'll find a way to come back. But, when Villa scored the second goal, that's when I was like, okay, now we have a title race on the final day, like just like we wanted. Because I was like, I, I just it's if City come back, I was like, it might be 2-2, and then that'd be enough for Liverpool to win the title if Liverpool start scoring goals, which I thought they were coming, but yeah, it was kind of setting up like the Man City Aguero QPR final
It
day,
really
and
was.
it was and that's when I like stopped watching Arsenal. I was like, okay, we're flipping between Liverpool and Man City.
I mean, one thing that was kind of, I guess, unique just for people that were watching the Liverpool, only watching the Liverpool game was you were able to find out, the Man City basically scoreline by the crowd. I mean, the crowd just
Mhm.
erupted almost like Liverpool had scored when
Yeah,
Villa scored the first, and then it really was unique when word came out that Coutinho had gotten the second. But
yeah.
kind of getting ahead of myself. So the second half starts. Liverpool are tied with Wolves, and City are down. The changes to the second, both teams are forced to kind of make changes, and both are pretty costly. Thiago is forced off for Liverpool, so Milner comes on instead. Salah later comes on a little after that, and he helps out. But I don't know if you noticed this, Rex, but Pep made a couple really big changes. That maybe
Mhm.
this is maybe why they ultimately did win that game. Um, so that first half, he had basically seen Ollie Watkins get behind Fernandinho and just clown him that entire second half. So he finally subbed Fernandinho off. He brought on Sinchenko to left back. He moved Cancelo back over to right back, and he brought John Stones on to basically to join center back, and that made City a little more sound defensively. And that said, they still do concede to Coutinho. But another thing Pep did is he finally took off Mahrez and brought on Sterling. Pep's had a weird thing with Sterling this year. I don't really get what it
Yeah,
is. And
he has. Yeah.
Sterling didn't play much in the Champions. I don't think he played really any versus Real Madrid in the two games. And he brought on Gundogan for Bernardo Silva, and but basically Sterling and Gundogan are responsible for that first goal. Um, but yeah, like we said, Villa do score first, and it's Coutinho of all people. And Ollie Watkins didn't necessarily have the best game, but he does do a good job here. He wins the header. He's able to flick it over to Coutinho. Coutinho cuts inside, and he's able to kind of fool Ederson by firing near post. And when Coutinho did it, I actually did start to believe because it just that felt too storybook to me. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it did.
that was really unique. And like, so I didn't watch it live, but when NBC was able to, well, I guess USA was able to offer like a highlight a little bit after that, and just the way like Coutinho like celebrated, it almost seemed like he was celebrating for Liverpool. So I don't know, it was starting to be a unique moment, but at the same time, I had this dread where it was like, all right, I don't want City Villa to like actually do what they're supposed to do, and Liverpool to end up drawing this game or to end up like
Yeah.
not getting the 3 points. And that was starting to be a thing because, like you said, it got into the 80th minute or so, and it was still 1-1. And I feel like
Mhm.
this is maybe to me just kind of being a pessimist or me just being like a fan, and it wouldn't have mattered because Man City or Man City. Had Liverpool been able to get a goal before City started scoring and actually put real pressure, maybe things would have changed. Maybe they would have wilted. We saw them wilt
That's
in
that's
the
a good
champ.
point.
We saw them wilt in the Champions League. We saw them wilt in the Champions League final. We saw them kind of struggle versus Real Madrid after they conceded a couple goals. Like they haven't
Yeah.
been that great at with handling adversity. We saw them miss a PK last week
Yeah,
for
Morris.
for this game to even matter. So it was like it felt like if a team was going to crack, it was going to be them. This was the kind of situation for them to crack, and the absolute opposite happens, unfortunately. Gunnigan, like I said, Sterling gets the ball out wide, he crosses it in, and Gunnigan's really good at recognizing where to be for a cross, and he beats Matty Cash to the ball. Uh, Very, very quickly after, I think like 2 minutes, Villa's not able to keep possession at all. Just City keep winning it back, and just they keep putting pressure on Villa's goal. And like this was maybe a time where Gerard maybe made a mistake to take Coutinho off to bring on Nkambia, because he took Coutinho off right after he scored, and it just seemed only Watkins was maybe an outlet, because Buendia wasn't necessarily that great this game either, and Villa couldn't keep the ball in that second half, and really
Yeah.
just the more you invite pressure on you, pressure on your goal, you're just kind of inviting even a team that's
Yeah.
not necessarily, they don't have strikers. We'll say, just you invite a team with enough cracks at you, eventually, something's going to leak through. And
Oh yeah.
just, I mean, the second goal, Zinchenko gets the ball on the far left side. He does a very good job to keep it and to find Rodri, and Rodri just takes a crack. And the backup keeper, I guess, I don't think he does good on this. I think he should have saved it, but Rodri's able
Yeah,
to
me too.
Rodri's,
He's
Rodri's
not
able
good.
to slip it in, and then very shortly after that, again, City once again get the ball. They're able to keep pressure on, and De Bruyne uh, really does come through for them in a time when maybe no one else would have, and he's able to to do a very clever, unique, low kind of curl ball back post that Gundogan is one to recognize. Maybe De Bruyne tries that. Maybe he does that in practice. But
Yeah, because that was I saw you put on script too. Like no one would have thought of that ball, and I was kind of like, as soon as he did it, I was like, what the? And then I was like, whoa, that's a ridiculous ball. Like no one thinks about that stuff except for De Bruyne. It was amazing.
it was just that was unfortunate. And so, yes, City get the third, and then by that time, Salah had finally, or just maybe shortly after that, Salah had finally scored the second goal for Liverpool. It's kind of a trash goal. Wolves can't do anything after a corner kick. Salah's able to get a little bit of a deflection, and the way Salah celebrates, it really did feel like an Aguero moment to me, and
Hmm.
it was like it was very bittersweet and almost crushing because he's celebrating, the team's celebrating. They go to the fans and they're like, you see Matip actually go like, "What's the score?" And you see all the fans
Hmm.
going 3-2, and immediately all the celebration stops. And then
Hmm.
very very shortly after that, uh, Robinson gets a third in like the 89th minute, and just no one in the stands and no players even celebrate it.
Hmm.
So I mean, credit to City. Like we said, there've been a couple times this year where they haven't done great with adversity, and to be down 2 goals, and I mean they were also down 2 goals against West Ham. So
Hmm.
we
Yeah, true.
we should say that, but it just felt like this was a time for them to choke, and the absolute opposite happened, and
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess we'll start from there.
well,
So
for me, I don't know about you, but the me thinking that City would choke, or especially when they were down 2-0, that for me came just from the Champions League failures
yep.
against Real Madrid, and so that was kind of in the back of my mind because of that. Not necessarily because of them being down in the Prem, because they do have a tendency to come back, but it was from the poor performances. Well, not really poor, but they definitely choked in the Champions League. So I was kind of like, at 1-0, not that much, but at 2-0 Villa, I was like, oh, they're going to choke again. They're going to choke the Champions League and the Premier League away. But, I mean, Pep has some good bench players too, but just to be able to recognize, put those players on at the time that he did, the timing was perfect too. So, yeah, I mean, it was good by Pep, good by City. Kind of figured things out after those 2 goals went in. But, man, I did want to see Gerard too for Villa and Philippe Coutinho kind of, knock City off and kind of
I
make
mean,
it happen for Liverpool. Because
it's
I
it's
kind of was
really
forgetting about Gerard too.
it's really rough for
Gerard's managing
Gerard.
Villa.
Yeah, he would have. People would have. Fans were joking. All week basically. Like this would be the title that you let slip. Like they'd accept it as him winning one, and
Mhm. Yep.
basically the opposite happened. He got nothing but stick. Like it's one thing to lose to City. Like if you lost 5-0, it's
Yeah.
like people were. Honestly, I was kind of expecting that. I was expecting City to hammer them, and
Mhm.
to give up 3 goals in such a short time. And I feel like making the subs he did and to play the backup keeper played a role in that. He
Yeah, it did.
I feel like he has some answering for this too. But anyways,
Mhm.
I've kind of led on with it, but I mean, maybe what in your opinion maybe changed between this and that Real Madrid game where City were just shocked beyond belief and weren't able to come back.
That's a good question. I think maybe for the Premier League, like that West Ham comeback that you mentioned,
Hmm.
that might have, because that was after they got knocked out. In the Champions League, I believe.
Yep.
So maybe after that they're like, oh, hey, we've been down before. We can come back. We can get points. We know we can do that. And it's also just like they're so good in the Premier League and in Champions League they just haven't been able to reach the pinnacle. Even though year after year they're favorites or at least like semi favorites to win it. So I think it's like a mental block with them in the Champions League, but it's like opposite in the Premier League. Like they know they can grind out wins. They can come back from being down. I mean, they had 24 shots, like you said, 24 shots. Villa can't allow that much. They're going to score if they shoot 24 times. So I don't know. For me, I think it's just a mental block in the Champions League and the Premier League. It's like the complete opposite. They're confident. They go into games thinking they're going to dominate. They're going to own the ball. They're going to shoot a bunch. And then, just Pep and the masterclass subs that he did too. I mean, like you said, they scored in the 78th, 76th, 78th, and 81st. So it's just like a 5-minute blitz of goals. It's insane.
And like, so I put this in the script. I don't know if you saw this. Jeremy has a very interesting theory, essentially. So like, I kind of take it to the point where the difference really was they had Kevin De Bruyne in this game, where Pep took off Kevin De Bruyne versus Real Madrid in that second half. Uh, Kevin De Bruyne wasn't able to go after being injured in the Champions League final, and so
Mhm.
why is Kevin De Bruyne so important? Not just because he's a really good player, maybe one of the best, maybe the best, attacking midfielders the league has ever seen. But Jeremy has this opinion that it's because he had an identity before joining Pep's Man City. And he
Ooh.
feels like Gundogan's kind of the same thing, where like Pep kind of grooms people to kind of be machine-like.
Mhm.
Pass, pass, pass for this possession, this pretty football, where De Bruyne will take a chance. And Gundogan's
Mhm.
kind of the same way. Gundogan formed his identity basically with Jurgen Klopp at Dortmund, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's kind of unfortunate that he's the one that basically is responsible for this. Uh,
Actually, now that you're saying this, so I read a book about Pep, and it was like last summer, I think. And in the book, they actually said that Pep players, when just the way Pep demands, what he demands out of their players, kind of the attacking flair is kind of grinded out of them.
ah,
So like you said, they're just machines. So some of these guys, that he gets later on, they have the good discipline from Pep, and they're going to work hard, but then they still kind of retain that flair and that kind of creativity that can kind of be grinded out of some of the players that Pep gets control of early. So yeah, that's a good point. I wasn't even thinking about that.
and like
But
Sane,
just made me
Sane would be
remember that
another.
book. Yeah, Sane, bunch of
Which
yeah.
is like funny. So it's like Jamie's basically saying that Pep's Aguero would maybe be another. Uh,
Hmm.
Basically, Pep's performs best when he actually embraces those guys.
Yeah.
And it's we kind of mentioned it earlier, but basically the reason if, Kevin De Bruyne is obviously a big reason, but it's because he recognized to take off Bernardo Silva for someone like Gundogan. And
Hmm.
we should touch a little bit about Gundogan because he could maybe leave this summer
Yeah.
for free.
Hmm.
He's still got some game in him, so whoever gets him, you're getting a pretty good player. Um,
Yeah. I'm hearing Bayern, maybe.
that interesting, yeah.
Well, he's been. I mean, he's gotten some stick this year, but he played in 24 games and he had 8 goals and 4 assists. So I mean, that's involved in 12 goals, half of his time playing, and a lot of it was like cameos off the bench too. So I do think, obviously, he had a great day, basically won them the Premier League on Sunday. But I do think he's a player that has a lot left to give,
Mhm,
even though it might just be like 2 or 3 years because he is getting up there in age. But
mhm.
still a really good player, and I think it's proven this year, especially coming off the bench and
And
scoring twice in like 5 minutes.
and
So
and I don't know if you remember City the prior season, but you could maybe
yeah,
argue Gundogan was maybe their most important player, and
yeah, he had that streak
he had
right
that streak where he
for De
scored
Bruyne.
almost every goal again. Yeah, when City like won 20 in a row or something, he scored
Hmm.
like 14 or 15 goals
Oh yeah, he was
for them,
amazing. Hmm.
and it's just there's been a lot of talk about Pep not needing a striker, But what Gundogan basically becomes when he does play is he makes these forward runs from midfield, and it's harder to mark because you don't necessarily know where it's coming from, and
Mhm.
it's harder to mark because instead of being off the shoulder, he's got a head start, so he can run wherever he needs to go. But he's
Yeah,
really
and
good at.
if the midfielders don't pick him up running too,
Mhm.
then you have to pass him off to the defense,
Yeah,
and sometimes like that's hard to do because it's a lot of communication. But yeah, those deep runs from Gundogan are just timed to perfection. He's such a smart player too.
and he knows whether it's something he and De Bruyne work on or what. He knows where to be where Cross comes in.
Oh yeah.
And we saw that too. So like I said, I Bernardo Silva doesn't score those two goals, even though it's a header from close range and it's a tap in. He
Mhm.
it's the recognition of where the ball is maybe going to be played and being there. So
Yeah.
that's focusing on that. I mean, I guess we'll stick on City for a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. Are you what should we think about this? They've now won 4 out of 5. They've they've just added Holland. Um,
Hmm.
Is this good for the league that Man City actually did win this, regardless of how exciting the race was?
Yeah, this is a good question because a couple years ago I was kind of like, no, because they're just free spending and no one else can spend that much. But now I'm kind of coming around. I guess just because the title race between Liverpool and City was amazing. So I guess I'm just coming around to think that this will help the league. It'll kind of force teams that are like in the top four to spend money to get good players. It kind of just elevates everyone's game. Like I kind of think it's like I'm trying to think like Ronaldo versus Messi kind of. When they were in the La Liga, they just fed off of each other. Like Messi would score, and then Ronaldo would be like, "Oh, all right, well you can score one, I'm gonna score two," and they just kind of it made each other like raise their game. So I kind of feel like City and Liverpool raised their game this year because of that, each other spending or just the results, even. But I kind of would like to see the rest of the top four kind of make that leap because the gap
It
between
does feel to be a
City,
gap, yeah.
Liverpool, and the rest was huge. Yeah, so I do want that gap to shrink. But I think it's good for the Premier League ultimately. I think we'll see, those top four, maybe even top six clubs spend a little bit more. We're already seeing like, some foreign players that we kind of don't hear about a lot being bought, coming into the Premier League and
Yeah,
playing well. A lot of French players too. So I think it's ultimately good for the Premier League. I think that gap between the two at the top will shrink, hopefully. But I still do get worried though, Ben, because City just has an obscene amount of money, and they're also getting Alvarez. And you said in the script he scored 6 goals the other day for River
he
Plate.
scored 6 last
So
night.
yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it does kind of feel depressing almost because it's like the transfer summer hasn't even started yet, and already City are just like adding ridiculously good players. So I do. It is like a struggle. I'm kind of on the fence if it's good or not, but I do think ultimately it'll be good, and hopefully this summer is going to be a spending fee, free spending for all these clubs, at least in the top four.
I mean, for me, I mean, I definitely take a little different. Where I don't think it's obviously I wanted Liverpool to win, but I don't think it's necessarily great that one team is dominant. Even if it's close in the table, because one thing I am kind of worried about is City have done this 4 out of 5 with a rebuild.
Yeah.
They've been phasing out Fernandinho for a while. They brought in Rodri. They lost David Silva. They have Bernardo Silva. Um,
Hmm.
and they've been able to do this without Aguero,
Yeah.
and without company. And it's
Well,
just
company's a good one there.
it's just like the old guard that like won on responsible for winning those titles in like 13, 14, and then I guess they won in 17. Um,
Hmm.
it's just they've been able to all replace those guys, and they've got a younger squad. I mean, Foden, I don't even think is 21.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
Grealish,
call.
Grealish is young.
Grealish.
Um,
Hmm.
and they're bringing in this Alvarez kid, like you said. Holland is maybe 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
And I look at, I guess we're flipping. I look at what Liverpool have, and Salah, Firmino, Mane, all over 30. Fabinho is close to 30. Henderson's over 30. Virgil van Dijk's over 30. Um, and it's not necessarily that 30 is like a number where like they can't do this anymore. But it does feel like replacing Tiago's over 30. It does feel like replacing these guys would be a lot harder. Um,
Mhm.
that is, it's possible we might actually see a lot of changes, maybe for both teams.
Yeah.
Sterling is rumored to be out. Maybe Jesus
Mhm.
for City.
Yep.
They've got this Brazilian Kake, who might be making noise for them as well. And then on Liverpool's end, they've been linked to the Bellingham. This
Mhm.
Jeremy calls him too much money, but too many. And we'll maybe see what they do as well. If it's possible, one of the three of Salah, Firmino, and Mane might go this summer.
Yeah.
And if they do, I mean, you brought in Jota and you have Diaz, but it does feel they would need to replace him with someone. So I guess we'll
And y'all have Carvalho. Carvalho's coming too,
yep,
right, from Fulham, and he's
Fabio
pretty
Carvalho's
young.
coming in.
So, but they do have to kind of, you can't get rid of all the old players and then bring in like four new starters because they're just not going to gel.
Mhm.
So Liverpool kind of have to do it like City did it, where it's like, we'll slowly kind of phase out the older people where they're still coming in, they're on the bench, they can make an impact coming onto the field, they can make a locker room impact, but we're not relying on them solely. So it's not just like, oh, here are four really good players that we're bringing in from all over the world, and we're going to put them together. And in a couple weeks, you're going to have to play like you've been playing together for years. Like that doesn't necessarily work. That's like the Chelsea kind of approach, and we know that doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, true.
I mean, just look at Lukaku now. But I think Liverpool will be okay, Ben. I know you're kind of pessimistic, but they got a good mix still. I think.
Mhm.
I mean, I do worry about like Van Dijk. They're gonna have to replace him with like a really good, hopefully a really good center back. But
They
I
have
think they'll be okay.
they have Kanata, who does seem to be.
Konate's good,
He's
yeah.
been he's
And
been excellent in almost any game I've watched.
Gomez,
I don't think they've actually lost. I mean that he's mostly played with Van Dijk, but he's done
mhm.
pretty well when he's been paired with Matip. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Matip's good too.
so and like the heart of the team really are the two fullbacks, and the two fullbacks do look to be.
Mhm.
I mean, Robinson I think is like 20, 28 now. So and
Mhm.
Trent is maybe 22, maybe
That's yeah.
maybe 23 now. But
Mhm.
yeah. The only thing I'm kind of worried about is Robinson now has Samikas to kind of give him some time and some rest. In between the season, Trent doesn't really have
Right.
that yet. There's maybe Joe Gomez, but we'll
Yeah.
see if maybe they try to address that in the summer as well. But
Yeah, they could get a young, athletic one to come up and just kind of, you know, learn a little bit. I mean, learn a little bit from Trent Alexander-Arnold would be incredible. They could,
yeah, it would
you
have to
know,
be someone
they
that would
could-
just have that would accept their role for what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You're going to be behind them for a while, but you're going to learn, and you're going to be, winning trophies and in the mix to win Champions League titles, which is, I would take that. A young player, I'd be like, I don't care. I'll pick up a Champions League winners medal, play a little bit, and learn behind Trent Alexander-Arnold. That'd be incredible.
And because he's so, I guess because he's unique, but also because he's young. I don't know if it'll happen necessarily under Klopp, but I have this suspicion that I feel like every Liverpool fan has a suspicion, but eventually they will get someone else to play fullback, and just you can make Trent maybe into that right central mid spot, and make him or the right attacking mid, make him become your De Bruyne. I feel like he could play
Mm,
those kind of balls.
mm,
He would have to work on his game a little bit. He's been tried at
mm.
midfield for England, and it hasn't actually worked out too well. Um, but again, that it just takes growing pains. But I feel like
Yeah.
he's got enough skill to be able to adapt his game, in my opinion. So
Mm.
that'll maybe be something to watch. And one last thing I do want to get out with a little bit before we move on is one thing I have been worried about is the way that Klopp plays as opposed to Pep. Klopp really is more demanding, it seems, when it comes to pressing, and he wants his midfield to be more of a workhorse, where Pep's teams can really just suffocate a team with possession. You've seen that change a little bit with Thiago coming in. When Liverpool had leads, they were able to kind of kill games that way. but it's still not the same. So it is demanding. But another thing I think that's been different this year is I don't know if you, but like the way VAR has been implemented, it actually suits the way that Klopp likes to play.
Hmm.
And so what I mean by that is you've heard all this talk about high lines, right? So you've got Virgil and I guess Kanate or Matip. You got the two center backs basically playing at the midway line. And
Mhm.
so you've heard analysts say all you have to do is kick a ball over the top. It's really easy to beat them. And they've actually conceded a lot of goals that way. But what's happened is VAR's gone back and been like, oh, kneecap offsides, you're out. So it helps you to
Mm.
play high up, and it helps teams that play high up.
Right, because you don't have to just rely on the refs being perfect.
Right.
Because with the
You've
high
got to
line, they
be
miss one offsides for a
you've got to be
goal and stuff.
a
Hmm.
millimeter on side.
That's clever. I didn't think about that.
And so we've seen Klopp kind of adjust his game a little bit. Maybe he can adjust it even more. So with Fabio Cavallo in, you mentioned it. Maybe we'll actually see them play. Maybe against like lower boxed in sides. Maybe they'll play with four attackers more than just a 4-3-3. So that could be
Yeah.
that could be something to see.
Hmm.
All right, so that's enough. That's enough about my team and the title race. We'll get into the top four a little bit. It wasn't. I don't have a ton of points actually. I was kind of expecting you to put some more stuff here. Um, but
Oh yeah, I got it. Just ask me.
okay, so like, but both teams kind of take care of business. I think I teased out earlier. I think the aggregate was like 10-1 in, in
Yeah.
in both games.
Yeah,
Um,
5-1 and 5-0.
I mean, it's Spurs. We kind of they're playing Norwich. We kind of assumed it. One of the goals, the keeper literally just passes it to like a Spurs player,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think it's the Kane goal, and Kane just like dives in for a header. Um, really, there's not a ton to talk about the actual game, but maybe we can talk a little bit about what Spurs accomplished this season. Um,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I hate to say it as an Arsenal fan, but really impressed. I mean,
mhm.
I'm looking at their last couple games. Wow. I mean, they didn't lose. The last time they lost was all right. They lost
Was it
to
Brighton?
Man U. No, they beat Brighton. Oh yeah, they did lose to Brighton. Okay, so April 16th, they lost to Brighton 1-0, and then they either drew or won the rest of their games. And down the stretch, they tied Liverpool, which ended up being a crucial point.
Yeah,
Destroyed Arsenal 3-0, grinded out a win against Burnley 1-0, and then just put on a show against City. And I mean, they just when the pressure was on for them, they stepped up, and the pressure didn't seem to get to them.
hmm
Where it kind of did get to Arsenal a little bit. I mean, injuries too played a factor for Arsenal.
yeah.
But I think just the youth really showed for Arsenal. And I mean, you put in the script, Conte was probably the difference here. Just so experienced. We talked about how he kind of changed that defense almost like overnight when he came
He
in.
really
And it's
did. Yeah.
still the same defenders. But now they're playing much better. They actually ended the season with 3 straight clean sheets, and Arsenal have been conceding at least a goal like their last, I don't know, like it feels like 8 or 9 matches they conceded.
I mean,
So
I used
that's a
to
point too.
I used to make fun of like Ben Davies and Eric Dyer,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
and I
me
mean
too.
they shut me up like, against Liverpool. I mean Ben Davies actually handled Salah pretty good,
Yeah,
um, and like it really is unique how like one manager can just come in and just completely make rubbish into like relatively good, at least good on the
yeah,
ball. And that one thing I definitely noticed is over the course of the season, Spurs got a lot better at building from the back,
yeah.
being able to beat a press and to actually go forward that way, start attacks that way. I mean, you saw that
Hmm.
really flourish against City. I mean, they weren't just kicking the ball up to Kane and Son, even though there was some of that. They were playing through City, and they played through Liverpool. And Sesson Young was another player that ended up having a really good second half of the season. And
Yeah, good call.
and we mentioned,
Now that oh, I was just gonna say now that I'm thinking about it too. I think one of the differences for Tottenham was getting Kulusevski
definitely,
in
yeah.
the window. He's been huge, and like you said, playing out of the back, you don't have to just rely on Kane and Son now. Now you have Kulusevski too, so it's kind of like that triad. is so much harder to mark than two really good ones. I mean, you see it at Liverpool too with like Mane and Firmino and Salah if they play those three. So
Yep.
that was a huge buy, and that was a January window buy. And you usually don't see January signings come in and just turn the season around that quick. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe Bruno Fernandez is one that comes to mind, and
that's a
that's
good shout. Yeah.
so that was looking back, that was a crucial, pivotal time too. And also, I think I put in there the script, the Liverpool tie for Tottenham too. That was a big result, unfortunately for Arsenal, but that kind of you know
You know,
put Tottenham in a better place.
it's kind of funny. So like, I actually should have said this, when we were talking about Liverpool, but I'm upset that they didn't win the it didn't win the title. But now that I think about it, out of everyone in the top four, they didn't win a single game. They drew
Hmm.
everyone. They drew both City. They drew both Chelsea's. They drew both Spurs.
Huh, interesting.
And that's one of those things where when you think about that, that means Spurs is deserving of being
Mhm.
there. Um, so that's just, I think
Yeah,
you nailed on about Kulishevsky. One thing I remember noticing earlier in the season is Kane would try to drop back and try to be like Mr. Playmaker, and he'd have
yeah,
Son to aim at and no one else, and it was really easy
and
to
no,
focus on
yeah,
Son. With Kulishevsky, he
yeah.
makes the same runs, and if you're a defender, you've got to focus on both, and that kind of
Mhm.
freed up both Son and Kane, and I think we really saw that in the second half of the season because out of nowhere, Son ties Salah for the Golden Boot. Um,
Yeah.
and
I have
some
I have
people
a bone to pick too about that.
some people were saying he maybe wins it because he didn't take PKs, which is I guess that's a fair argument. But that means Mane won
I
it
would
a couple years ago.
Yeah, I would go the other way too. I kind of wanted to go like in the World Cup when they do the Golden Boot. If you're tied, they go
Assist,
to assist as a kicker,
yeah.
and Salah had 13 assists versus 7 for Son. So I kind of would like to see that, I guess. But I mean, both players win the Golden Boot. More Golden Boots to go around. Both players are happy, I guess. So, but yeah, just more assists for Salah for me. I think he should get it, kind of like the World Cup.
I mean, it's definitely. I'm actually glad Son does get some recognition here because he's been fantastic for the last few seasons.
Yeah,
Um,
good point. He does deserve it.
and I mean, didn't we say that he didn't? Was Son not mentioned for like the Player of the Year award?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
remarkable. Um, I mean,
Because
he's not just,
we had players that had like 8 goals in there, and and Son has 23, and he wasn't in there.
and it's like, I mean, I've because the way I've kind of taken after like watching Liverpool play. I like wingers that actually make runs to try to get in behind, but also take players down the touchline, and that's what Son
Yeah,
does. And Son's also really good with both feet. He's 2-footed. That's really
yeah,
unique. So it's a shame Spurs have him. Um, and Kane had a really good second half of the season as well. So I mean
yeah,
that's with Spurs. I mean one thing actually did want to ask you is so you still look at their team; they don't really have a ton behind that. So if something
Mhm.
happens to like Kulishevsky, um, I guess you can bring on more, but or Kane or whatnot. Maybe the extra game load gets them. So is there possible that them getting Champions League, even though this might help them get Ericsson, might hurt them in their league next season because it will be more
It could,
games?
yeah. More games. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what they do
Mhm.
with that extra money for being in the Champions League this summer. But I mean, you would think that center backs is a must. I just don't. We don't. I don't know if Conte can kind of turn this crap into gold year in and year out. So I do. I'm a little worried. I think they're going to maybe get some good center backs and increase that depth, obviously, because it's going to be a lot more games. So they do need more legs in there. But yeah, I mean, it tends to be when you first get in the Champions League after a while, it tends to be some growing pains, I guess. But Tottenham were still in Europa Conference League, so they still had extra games. They still had more of a workload. But yeah, I would expect them to sign a marquee center back at least, and then just like you said, add some more bench players because one injury to one of their top, like if Son got hurt,
Oh,
I think they'd be in a bunch of trouble.
absolutely, yeah. And so Hey, let's play devil's advocate and just do a little hypothetical where Daniel Levy does what he does. He doesn't do business. Maybe he gives Conte like some signing, but it's like a bench player. How will you feel as an how will you feel as an Arsenal fan? Would you view Spurs as a threat the same way you do Chelsea? Because I asked you last week what you thought about Chelsea. Or do you think you were close this season? Maybe Arsenal are only a signing or two. You'll easily overtake them. It won't be an issue. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I mean, my immediate thoughts are just Tottenham being in the Champions League and Arsenal being in Europa League
Mm.
just automatically kind of feels like Tottenham are just going to be open in this category of elite players because, the elite players want to play in the Champions League, and Arsenal are kind of going to be in the category of, hey, we can't necessarily get elite players because they don't want to play in the Europa League and we can't offer them Champions League. So I do get worried that just being in the top four, getting in the Champions League, just opens up Tottenham to a whole different class of players that Arsenal necessarily aren't privy to, because those top players don't want to play in Europa League; they want to be in the Champions League. And also, I'm hearing that some of the Arsenal players might leave because of that, because they're not in the Champions League and they
Oh,
haven't been. I don't know. I heard like Gabriel might go to Barca. I hope that doesn't happen. There's some Saka talk. I think he's going to sign a contract, but there's some Saka talk originally with like City because he wanted to play in the Champions League. And I mean, eventually, if Arsenal don't get into the Champions League, some of these young players are going to leave because they want to play in the Champions League. You don't have, you have a short window that you can actually compete in the Champions League. And like,
sure.
if I'm Saka and Arsenal don't get in the top four next summer, I might be looking to go somewhere where I can compete at the highest level. So I do think that is a big concern for me as an Arsenal fan. I just think Tottenham is just going to be open up to so much good player that pools that they can get into versus Arsenal just because they're in the Champions League, and the extra money helps too, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, they're heavily linked now to Ericsson, which is like Jeremy
Mm.
all of a sudden became a big fan of yours the last couple of weeks when he wasn't really thinking about that till it happened.
I
Um,
hope Ericsson doesn't go.
but I mean, we can stick on Arsenal a little bit. Like we said, they do take care of business. Everton kind of help out because they allow 3 goals off set plays. Um,
Yeah.
Everton thankfully didn't need this game to stay up because of what they were able to do against Palace. They had their own Man City moment where they were down 2 goals and had an insane second half where they were able to score three and just raucous. That was a wild atmosphere for that
Oh
game.
yeah. That was Vieira headbutted a fan, right, or kicked a fan.
Oh, it's just the whole fans storming while players are still out there is weird. I think the FA should look at that. Maybe do a if that happens again, because that happened also with City.
Mhm.
There should be points deducted. To start the next season. That'll
Yeah, that's
you
a
can
good point.
storm the field. Just do it after everyone's left.
Yeah, because didn't last week was it Sheffield won or not? Someone won in the championship playoffs, and the field got stormed, and one of the players got like hit in the head and
Yeah,
was bleeding, and
yikes.
then he lifted up one of the trophy or whatever with like blood all over his head,
Oh, whoa.
and then I also saw too someone took like a selfie, I guess, of their middle finger basically in Wilfred Zaha's face
Oh
after the
man.
game. And it's just like, the more that happens, these players, they just lost. They're going to be pissed.
And
Like,
they're
I'm
exhausted. They're not
surprised.
going to be thinking.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
exhausted. They don't want some random person in their face, like
Hmm.
flicking them off. So I do think, it might happen more and more. And also after COVID, people are crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I worry too. Like someone could have a knife and charge the field and attack a player,
Really? No.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and you can't police it because there's like 1,000 people on the field.
Plus,
So yeah, they
they allow
and they're not gonna.
they allow drinking there. So like,
Yeah,
I don't know if they have like glass bottles or whatnot. But I mean
they might.
that could be a
Yeah,
thing too.
and you're right about like if they don't do if the FA like starts deducting points, I think that would nip that in the bud right then and there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
And not just
yeah,
like
just go
not just
going
like
hard.
three, just like 10 or 12, like double
Yeah,
digits.
yeah,
Yeah.
going super hard. That would stop it immediately.
And so One thing I wanted to ask you is like, so you mentioned like the dread of like maybe you fearing that Arsenal don't make Champions League again next season.
Mhm.
If that happens, would it be time to move from Arteta, or just is it more of like a slow process where it's like you just got to take your growing pains because you are
It's a good
right
question.
now you guys are 11 points clear of United, and that is not something I was expecting back in August. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there's
and I
definitely been
wasn't
improvement.
expecting fifth. Yeah, I wasn't expecting fifth place after their start in August either. But yeah, to answer your question, I I
Like
think if
say Vieira gets close to Europe next season.
hmm,
Like
yeah, I think
they finished ninth.
if there's continuous improvement at Arsenal for a time being, I think Arteta would be fine. Like if they finished fifth again and maybe kind of got far, maybe won like a trophy or something and got far in Europa League, then I think he'd be fine. But
Okay.
I think he could be done if they slip up here. They don't, if they don't increase some depth because we know they're injury prone. The grind of Europa League football also. If they don't finish, if they finish like sixth or seventh, and there's a huge gap now between them finishing fourth and fifth, then yeah, you could see him leave, especially if Vieira is continuing to do well. This was his first year at Palace, so I expect
Would you like Vieira to maybe get a look at it if that did
not
happen?
if that did happen, maybe because it's after next year. I mean, it's been what 3 years? If one more year, so it would be 4 years with Arteta
Oh
and
wow.
no Champions League, or three years maybe. I can't
Uh-huh.
remember. But yeah. I mean, at that point, if Vieira's doing well, I would like to look. But as of right now, I do think Arteta's doing a good job.
Hmm.
He's got a lot of young players. He has made some mistakes, and we talked about last week not bringing in more depth in the January window kind of hurt them because now Tomiyasu was out, Ben White got hurt, and Tierney got hurt, Partey got hurt. So
And
those decisions are kind of head
Jamie brought up
scratchers.
Chambers. I completely forgot about him. Like he started
Oh yeah,
he
Callum
started for Villa.
Chambers. And then you
Didn't
you
necessarily
got
play
rid
his
of
best game,
Aubameyang.
but still.
Yeah, and they got rid of Aubameyang, and he was like lighting up La Liga for Barca for a time being. So that looked like a mistake. Maybe not though with Nketiah playing well, but Nketiah might not be around either. He's someone that might want to leave. So
And I was
I don't
watching
know. It's another big summer.
and I was watching yesterday. Rice Nelson. Is that his
Oh
name?
yeah, Reese Nelson. Yep,
Yeah,
Reese Nelson at
was
Feyenoord.
playing for
Yeah.
Feyenoord. I
hmm
remember him kind of maybe being one of those youngsters that would soon get a look at. Is he on loan?
Yeah, he's on loan.
Okay.
So I think the plan is for him to come back and kind of reintegrate into the squad. But I don't know. I mean, I have my doubts about him too because yeah, he
Mhm.
did well at Feyenoord, but Eredivisie is a lot different than the Premier League, and
Yeah. True.
he had. But I do feel Maitland Niles another one. We could have used him because he was playing. He played well in cameo spots, and he can kind of be a fullback. He can kind of be a defensive midfielder, and we loaned him out to Roma, and he might go too. And he could have filled in when Partey went down. He could have filled in when Tomiyasu got hurt and Tavares wasn't playing well because he's so versatile. So yeah, some head scratchers, but I think just getting experience for those guys maybe was Arteta's first priority. I don't know.
And so I don't know if you noticed. So you mentioned something about like Champions League kind of being a detriment. Well, one thing that's kind of interesting is um, Aston Villa have all. I think it's now official now. They've pinned down Babacar Kamara of Marseille, who is I think he's 20. He's been young for a while. I think he's finally now 22. But he is a very good defensive midfielder that's calm on the ball. I remember suggesting him to Alex for Man United. I mean, this guy's had Champions League interest, and so
Mhm.
I feel like there are guys out there that you can still scout. But it's like it's wild that Villa has beaten a lot of clubs to this guy because he's been linked to a lot of teams over the last year or so, and it's just I feel like Arsenal really are only just a piece or two away. Maybe not
Mhm.
necessarily to challenge for a title, but like you said, to make a cup final, maybe win a cup, and like you said, to do well in Europa and to maybe get top four. And so we'll see what kind of business they do. They were
Yeah.
linked to maybe Jesus. We don't know if that'll happen now or not. So
hmm Yeah.
good.
They need a big summer window.
Yep. And so let's see. I don't know what we're doing for time. Oh, it might be. We'll quickly get into to relegation race because I mentioned that the top four wasn't necessarily all that exciting, but the relegation race was at least, and
Oh yeah.
at least for an American sake, Jesse Marsh does survive. So we're happy about that. Really, it was Burnley kind of played their role of not getting a thing versus Newcastle, but Leeds do take things into their own hands. Um, they're able to they're able to beat Brentford 2-1 thanks to a Rafina PK. Then they quickly conceded to a header to Sergio Canos, and then Canos takes off his shirt, and this ends up being kind of costly because that's the first yellow,
Mhm.
and then a couple minutes later, Canos tries to go in for a challenge. I don't even think he gets the guy, but the ref sees it and gives him a second yellow. They go down to 10 men, and then in the last minute or so in the game, Jack Harrison hits a volley, hits it low. Jeremy thinks it shouldn't count. He thinks a player was offsides and impeded with the goalie's eyesight, but it does.
Ooh.
And Leeds are able to secure safety all on their own. Uh, was not a great season for them at all. Just injuries
No.
everywhere.
Hmm.
Patrick Bamford was maybe fit to go this game, and after basically missing, I want to say like 85% of the season, and then out of nowhere he got COVID, so he wasn't able to get a kick at all. So it'll be interesting to see what Leeds do next season. They are able to stay
Yeah.
up, but they gave up so many goals. The goal differential was horrible. So like had they tied with Burnley, uh, they would have had no shot.
They
So
they gave up 79 goals. It's second worst to only Norwich at 84. So yeah, Marsh needs that was a lot of Bielsa, I feel like too. But Marsh has a big job ahead of him for sure. But
really
I'm glad to
does.
see an American still in the Premier League, and he might bring in Aronson too,
Yep.
another American. They were looking at him in January, and now that their safety secured, they might go ahead and get him, which would be exciting too. A couple Americans in the league moving up the table, hopefully.
And there's actually the serious talk that maybe Rafina might be maybe off to Barca,
Ooh.
maybe off somewhere else, and so there would actually be a spot for Aronson to play on that right side. Um,
Ooh.
and we'll see how Bamford plays with them next year.
Mhm.
Maybe the one positive you can say is the last couple of weeks, this youngster Gerhardt has really been big for them.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he also I don't know if you remember this game, but Leeds were playing Norwich, and it was like a 1-0 game, and then Norwich, I think, three goals basically happened in the span of like a couple of minutes. It was an absolute bonkers game. Norwich scored, and then so Leeds, I guess we're tied at that point, and then like the 95th minute or so, Gerhardt's able to get a goal
Mhm.
for them, and he maybe started this little comeback. I don't know if that happened under Marsh or not, but that was maybe the
Oh,
first
that
time
was that was Marsh, I think. Yeah, it was.
when that game
Let me
happened
look.
that maybe was he the decider had they not gotten 3 points that day.
Yeah, so that was Marsh, by the way. Yeah, Marsh was there. So.
So at least if you're a Leeds fan, you've got him to maybe look forward to. Maybe with Bamford back, Harrison will play better. Maybe Dan James will play better
Mhm.
for them with an actual striker to aim at. It'll be interesting to see
Mhm.
if they keep Calvin Phillips, 'cause we don't know
Ooh,
what his
yeah,
situation is either. Um,
true.
so I mean that's I don't know, Rex. Do you have any other thoughts on Leeds? Are you happy they stayed up?
Yeah, I think so. I just want the Americans to do well.
Hmm.
Marsh especially, and if they can get Aronson, that would be really cool to see. Like a couple Americans in the Premier League on the same team. I think that's always a good thing. So I am excited. They're a little bit more exciting to watch than Burnley as well. So,
Definitely.
I mean, I also wonder where if Burnley would have made it had they have kept Deitch, because he's kind of like a scrappy survivalist in the Premier League. So I wonder about that as well. I don't know how you feel about it. But
Yeah,
then because when
yeah.
the new manager was promoted, I think they won like three in a row with him,
They
and
went
then
on a
after
good
that they kind of
stretch. Yeah.
fell off the cliff after that.
Yeah, Jeremy brought that up on Sunday. Um, g- it's I feel like maybe they made the right call because you said they got results maybe when they probably shouldn't have because they did get that new
Mhm.
manager bump. Um, and really, towards the end of the stretch, they started to have a lot of injuries. They weren't able to play with Tarkowski for a lot of this
Yeah,
down the stretch. But at the same time, they weren't conceding a bunch of goals. Really, they just
yeah,
couldn't score. Wanghorst ended up kind of being a bit of a bust
yeah.
for them. I don't
That was a
necessarily know.
bust.
I don't know if Chris Wood would have been better for them or not. But just Wanghorst didn't work out at all. Maybe
Which is weird because he was scoring a
he
ton of
scored a
goals in the
ton.
Bundesliga.
Yeah, and that's another mark for the Bundesliga. There have been a couple
Mhm.
guys that have come here recently. Well, Holland, you're now on watch because if
Oh,
you if you follow the Sancho and the Werner hasn't really panned out. Havertz really maybe the only one,
Havertz.
and he hasn't scored a ton either.
Yeah, and he had a dreadful first year at Chelsea. But Ben, what do you think about some of these Burnley players being up for grabs now? Because
Hmm.
Cornet, you would think would leave. Tarkovsky is another one you would think would leave. Who else? What's the midfielder that they have that's good? Can't remember.
I
Maybe
mean,
he would leave too.
maybe
McNeil.
McNeil. Yeah,
Yeah, McNeil. He might leave.
going to start the season, I was actually expecting a little bit more from McNeil. I was actually kind of disappointed, to be honest. Like this was maybe a time for him to have a Jack Grealish like moment. I don't know if like you remember when Aston Villa almost went down.
Oh,
Grealish didn't
yeah.
have that great of a season that year, but for the final like 5 or 6 games, he really had the team on his back and
Mhm,
basically dragged them to promotion. I
mhm.
feel like McNeil had a chance to maybe do something like that, and he just, like I said, just Burnley would just they didn't offer really any kind of threat going forward. And
It was basically just
Cornet would be
Cornet. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I don't
yeah. Cornet's
I
a
don't
good player for
imagine he's
sure.
going to stay with them at least.
No,
And
and I wonder if Pope will stay too between the
Pope would
sticks.
be someone I would definitely watch for. I imagine someone would go get him. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
he's not
definitely.
he's not necessarily great with his feet, but he's one of the best shot stoppers. On his day, he is the best shot stopper in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
in the league, on his day, that sob turns into Buffon. Um, we call it the Pope Masterclass. Um, and so I mean that is Burnley. I mean it is. We didn't like how they played, and we made fun of Dyche all this time, but Dyche was able to keep them up all this time too. They
Hmm.
they haven't. They're one of the lowest. Maybe they are like the lowest when it comes to wages and what they're able to actually do. So it is kind of sad in that respect. It's one of those where if you aren't spending, and I don't know if the owners were able to do it or not. But yeah, if you don't reinvest in the squad basically every year, you're liable to something like this
Hmm.
happening. And
Yeah.
Leeds have relatively good owners. We expect, and they didn't do any spending in January, and that almost cost them. So
Hmm.
you know. I know,
Mm.
finances are tight with COVID, but it is kind of sad how sometimes it's as simple as that. They did sell Chris Wood. Maybe they didn't have to.
Hmm.
Maybe you could have had kept Chris Wood and brought Wanghorst. Um,
Yeah, just
but
as a backup if Weghorst didn't hit the ground running, which
yeah,
happened, and they didn't have a backup, so that's a good point.
and they're now linked to Vincent Company, former Man City great for
Ooh,
manager job. He just did a stint with Anfield or
interesting.
Anderlecht,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that'll be very interesting if he actually gets a chance with them. I feel like he'd play
Yeah,
differently.
and
So
they have those parachute payments from the Premier League still.
yeah,
So that's most of the time we see clubs bounce right back into the Premier League.
mhm.
We've seen it with like Fulham, um, a bunch of other teams, and Norwich is continuously back up.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
Bournemouth
mean,
is coming
company
back
with
up.
Bournemouth, yeah, Bournemouth. So company with those parachute payments, that would be interesting. We'll see what happens with some of the other players if they stay or not.
And he'd maybe have
But
some.
yeah, interesting.
He maybe have some cachet. To be honest, maybe Man City will like. I don't know. Cole Palmer, give him a stint in the championship. Give
Ooh.
him some playing time. Um,
Yeah, because he
so
was a lot of those City young guys just tore up the Premier League Two or whatever it's called. Like McAtee, he has a bunch of assists. Some of them have a bunch of goals. So yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
maybe it's not all doom. Maybe we'll see. Um, and so we mentioned about Everton. they weren't really in this because they were able to do something crazy for Crystal Palace. But that said, some positives are you got some good growth out of Aaron Gordon, I would say.
Yeah,
Calvin Newin basically came back for that final game versus Palace and earned his I guess yearly wages because of that goal he scored. But his fitness was kind of a disappointment this year, and
yeah.
we don't necessarily know what Richarlison will do. But Pickford also had a really good season for
Oh,
them.
he was amazing. Yeah, he was part of the reason why they stayed. And I wonder, like, Damari Gray was good in the beginning too, but I wonder the future of Dele Alli too, because he
Mhm.
didn't really play that great, and Van de Beek as well. He was on loan.
Van de Beek, he got the
He
lone goal.
scored. Yeah,
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 versus you
he
guys.
scored, but he hasn't been playing. So like, I'm just I'm confused too because he seems to play well when he plays, but he don't play that much. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's a lot of these teams. It's just going to be a really interesting summer to see what they do.
And so we've kind of tried to be a little more upbeat, maybe for Burnley and for Leeds. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like Everton definitely have to be celebrate. And you saw that when they literally like left the stadium to go on the ground. Um, but there has to be a sense of maybe doubt or pessimism still. Is Lampard still the guy to lead you next season? Um,
Mm,
because he was able to. I feel like with that squad, it's not necessarily like he took them when they were in relegation. They were like 14th when he took them over.
right.
And while they were able to get a couple good results, especially at home, they were able to get good results at home. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily know if the shine is or if the stink is still off him. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I agree too. Yeah, because I honestly thought they'd get a huge new manager bump when they got him, and you didn't really see it. So now that they're back in the Premier League, I think he'll be okay. Just because he did enough to keep him in, and that'll just buoy everyone's spirits. And they'll get some players back too. Hopefully, they'll get Dominic Calvert-Lewin back and healthy.
Yeah,
They can kind
true.
of build on that. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm still not sold on Lampard at Everton. And I don't know. I mean, they did enough, but the form wasn't necessarily great behind him, Lampard. So I
Maybe
don't know. We'll see.
there's maybe something with like younger managers because out of nowhere Everton started to like have the Arsenal problem where like every other game they had a red card, and
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
in like big games.
yeah.
We saw that down the stretch. And
True.
Yari Mina was another guy that he just couldn't stay healthy for them, and they really
Yeah,
suffered with him as well.
yeah. Good call.
So I don't know. I mean, we don't. They also have some issues with their owner. Behind the scenes, we don't. Um, Alex brought up that uh, it might be Burnley. Someone tried to report them for financial fair play violations.
Ooh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, apparently, like Everton maybe lied at what their balance sheet was because of COVID. So like they were able to
Uh,
spend what they didn't necessarily have, and they went over a line.
oh,
I don't really know how
interesting.
financial fair play works, to be honest, but
Yeah, I don't know anymore. Yeah,
how Everton will get dinged for this and not City, I will not understand. But
yeah. Makes no sense.
one of their, I don't say their owners, but like I guess one of their higher investors, or I guess the guys with like a heavy share in the club, he is sanctioned by the U.S. government because
Ooh.
he's got one of those Putin connections. So
Oh, gotcha.
so
Ooh, interesting.
it might not be out of the water yet. That's something to maybe follow in the summer. We'll see if that happens.
Ooh, it's gonna be an interesting summer.
Yep. Well, we've already gotten it rolling a little bit with Holland, and this is a good segue. We can talk a little transfer gossip right now.
Ooh.
I mentioned Aston Villa picking up Babacar Kamara of Marseille, and Real Madrid after missing out of Mbappe. Maybe it looks like they're maybe looking at nailing down Chouameni, and if
Hmm.
that happens, their midfield will be Chouameni, Camavinga, and Valverde, all under 25. I think for the next
Yeah.
they'll be set for the next
And
five
they'll
years.
still
So
have probably Cruz and Modric too. It's kind of the perfect situation where they can learn from these
yep,
older guys and kind of slowly play more and more, and then they're gonna groom them to be the next Cruz and Modric.
And
It's perfect.
Casemiro's not. Maybe he's 30 now, but he's
Casemiro.
still got legs too. So
Mhm.
they'd be in really good shape in midfield at least. And
Oh yeah,
even if they don't get Mbappe, the way Rodrigo's been able to kind of grow for them this season. Vinny, I think, is like 20 now,
Benny.
maybe 21. You don't know.
Benzema doesn't show any signs of slowing down either.
That would maybe be like the situation. You don't know how long Benzema can keep doing this, but
Mhm.
enjoy. They can enjoy it now because they really are scary with him. Um, but yeah, one of the things is that they kind of broke over the last couple of days is PSG might be able to keep Mbappe, and the reason is this rumored contract is kind of like a blank check to a player. Just here, we'll give you everything you want. If you want to have control over the coach, over the personnel, we'll give you whatever wage demands you want. If you want to, I think there was something like a $300 million signing bonus that was included in this. If we talk about
Wow.
financial fair play, hey, look at these guys. Um,
Yeah, yeah. They're just like, hey, we'll give you whatever you want. Just stay here. And ultimately, I don't know if you saw, but Mbappe basically came out and said that it was because he wanted to stay in France. But I think it's the money and the power that he was given
It's
for
one of those.
sure.
It's one of the. I don't think you can turn that down. I mean that.
No,
I mean
yeah,
it's one thing to talk about generational money, but like that's money where like if Mbappe wants to after like 30, if he wants to if he wants to become an owner or something like that, he'll be able to.
yeah, it's insane how, and he's so young too. And I guess too they can kind of be like, hey, look, you're going to be in the Champions League every year, and we're going to be in it to win it. With all the money we have, so there's a good chance that he could win Champions League with PSG as well. But
Or, and
yeah, I'm kind of.
and well
Oh, go ahead, Ben.
and down the stretch, out of nowhere, it wasn't necessarily Neymar. Out of nowhere, him and Messi started clicking really good. Now it is only the French league, but
Yeah,
that last 5 or 6 games, we figured they had nothing to play for. They almost looked at it like a tryout session or like a summer like a training session, and
yeah,
if they can find maybe another player, not Neymar, uh,
yeah.
a winger, maybe a young winger that is able to press, maybe they don't want to, and
Mhm.
um, I was thinking if they were able to bring in Tchouaméni instead of in Real Madrid, that midfield becomes different too, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden PSG looked different. So maybe
And
it's
I'm actually hearing that Neymar might be out the door too.
I
So
I think
that would create
the
a lot
way
of
to
money
make
for someone.
I think the way to make Messi works. Only one Neymar or Messi can be on the field at the same time. Jeremy kind of feels that way
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So and I mean, I kind of put this out there. I mean, do you know if Arsenal is actually linked to anyone, or who? Like, if you were the owner, you had a little wish list.
Mhm. Well, they're linked to Jesus, which would be good. He's a good player. I don't know. I mean, we need defenders for sure. Saliba, he's interesting because I don't know if he necessarily wants to go to England and play. I think he kind of is happy at Marseille.
Interesting.
But it looks like he's going to be coming back too. So maybe we'll have three good center backs. And then
So,
I've been hearing Aaron.
just to kind of cut in,
Yeah.
Saliba has actually made France's team for the Nations League. Kanate didn't.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, he's been on fire there too in the French league. I've also been hearing they're trying to get Aaron Hickey from Bologna, I think Bologna or Genoa, one of those,
Hmm.
to kind of compete with Chiarantini at left back.
Oh, you got
And he
that would
played
be
well.
good
He
for you
scored,
guys.
yeah, because he's injury prone. And he scored 5 goals, I think, in Serie A. And then who else are they? Jesus, maybe another central midfielder, maybe.
Do you know if
I
that
don't know.
Do you know if that Tavernier guy for Rangers is linked to anyone? You kind of
I don't think so. 'Cause he's older too. I think he's like 31,
okay.
32. Yeah, he's pretty old, surprisingly. So I don't know. I think he'll stay because he would have left a couple years ago when he was a little younger and still putting up huge numbers.
Yeah, because
I think, but
when I looked at his stats, I was blown by that, to be honest. Just because
me too.
he's a
Yeah,
fullback and
I did,
attacking
I
fullbacks are
did the
kind of
same
in
thing.
demand these days.
Yeah, and a couple years ago, I hadn't really heard of him, and so I looked at his stats, and then I was like, why isn't he in the Premier League? I never heard of him. He's probably like 20. And then I looked and he was like 29 or 30, and I was like, oh, okay, he's older. But
Because
I don't know.
Tierney
I think he
Tierney
kind of
came
found
from
a niche there.
Tierney came from Scotland, right? Like Celtic, maybe.
Tierney was Celtic, yeah. So and Hickey's Scottish too. So
Oh, there you go.
good to see Scotland internationals running up to the Premier League. Hopefully,
Well, they if they if this Hickey guy hits it well at Arsenal, it would be left. He'd get to get yelled at by Robinson, the captain.
well, I'm a little worried about him too because he's so young. I don't know how he would do in the Premier League, but there's a lot of buzz around him. So I do hope we can kind of get him because we know Tierney can't really do a full season in the Premier League. He always gets hurt. So they need a quality left back, and it kind of showed this year with Tavares struggling
Yeah, he really
when
did.
Tierney was out. So yeah, they need a left back for sure.
All right, and we'll I guess we'll kind of wrap up a little bit with the Champions League final preview. It is Real Madrid versus Liverpool. Um, I know my feelings about this, but one thing that kind of I was already nervous going in. Real Madrid haven't lost a UEFA final or a Champions League final in over 41 years. Um,
Whoa.
so I mean, what's that saying? Like records are meant to be meant to be broken or smashed.
Yeah.
So this will be a good time for that. For Liverpool's sake, Real Madrid were the team that knocked them out of the Champions League last year,
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
and they were able to beat Liverpool in 2018 in kind of really bizarre fashion. Karius had a couple moments as a
Oh
keeper.
yeah.
Benzema
Some
had a
bad
had a
moments.
had a bicycle goal that just he no one scores that in 100 tries ever again.
Mhm.
And Ramos injured Salah like 10 minutes in the game, and so
Yeah, that's right.
this is the solid revenge game. We'll see if that actually pans out, but just I don't know. Just kind of set it up a little bit. Liverpool could be without Thiago, and I will feel a lot better if they go into this game with Thiago,
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. But Fabinho could also be a game time decision as well as Van Dijk. So we don't necessarily know how healthy Liverpool could be. Um, that said, if everyone is good to go, I would like to see what Klopp's called fans have called the NFT midfield and Naby, Thiago, and Fabinho. And so
Ah.
that would leave Henderson out to maybe be a sub. Hopefully, definitely leave Milner out to be a sub because Milner came on
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
goals. I don't know. I mean, that's my kind of thinking on this. I am quite nervous to be honest. But how are you feeling about this, Rex?
I don't know. I think it'll be a really good game. I do feel like Real Madrid. Well, I guess Liverpool played not Valencia, Villarreal too.
Hmm.
But I was just kind of thinking Madrid, playing a Premier League team prior, maybe they'll be used to a little bit more of the English game. But at the same time, Liverpool played Villarreal, so maybe they're more used to playing La Liga teams too. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see what Vinicius and Benzema can do for me, because Vinicius will be up against Robertson, right? Or he's on Trent's side?
This
I
just
don't
be
know, but
left. Yeah, it would be on Trent's side. Yeah.
Trent's. Oh, that's going to be a huge matchup. I
Hmm.
mean, one of the best fullbacks versus just a really athletic winger. That's going to be, for me, very interesting, as well as how can the defense cope with Benzema, because he's been incredible. So I really would like to see Van Dijk in there against Benzema, kind of have both teams at full, I don't know, just fully healthy, and with the top players playing in the biggest game of the season. That's what I want to see. I just want to see a slobber knocker.
I mean, like rival fans definitely will have a lot to I guess enjoy. I won't say the crow. I guess a lot of stuff to appetize themselves if Trent has a bad game, because there's been this like thing out there that Trent can't defend. Trent's been a fantastic defender for this last 2 months plus, actually really the whole season. Maybe people haven't necessarily been watching, but Trent has really, really stepped up his defensive game. I think he was maybe man of the match in that Carlin in that no in that FA final versus Chelsea.
Oh
He
yeah,
was spectacular, and so yeah, that'll be like you said, that'll definitely be something to watch. Um, Benzema versus Van Dijk or even Kanate will definitely be something to watch. It's possible that Kanate could come away with everyone praising him and not Van Dijk.
true.
That could
Yeah.
maybe be something I see. Or you know, maybe Matip plays instead. Well, we don't know what Klopp will do. But it's possible also that Kanate plays, and because he's young, he has an uh-oh moment. So one thing I'm also looking at is the two keepers are really probably the two best shot stoppers in the world at the moment, in my opinion, with
Mm,
Courtois and Allison. I mean,
yeah.
Allison has become almost video game like when it comes to stopping 1v1s. You know, it's one thing to like beat the offside trap, but even you still have to get it past the goalie, and he's been really good at stopping those this
Mhm.
season. Whereas Courtois just makes saves he should not make.
Yeah.
He's a 6'6" monster, and he's really good at getting down and using that body. Um, but
Yeah, it's gonna goalkeeper battle. It's gonna be interesting.
it I'm definitely expecting goals. That said, but I don't know. What are what are your thoughts? Who are you maybe leaning towards, or what do you maybe hope or expect to see in this game?
Well, I'm leaning towards the Liverpool. Maybe just that, that bitter blow in the Premier League on the last day, losing out by a point. Maybe will fuel them. I think here because they've already won two trophies. If they win the Champions League too, if they win a treble, that's pretty historic. I think. I know not winning the Premier League and it was so close. That really hurts. But a treble and the third and final is the Champions League trophy. I mean, that's amazing. That's something historic, I think, too. Something that would be celebrated. So I kind of want I want Madrid. I mean I want Liverpool over Madrid, not
Nice.
Madrid, but I want it to be. I do want it to be a close game. I want to see Liverpool win the treble, especially after that heartbreak of missing out in the champ in the on the final day to City in the Premier League. So I don't know. I think, like you said, I think it'll be a goal scoring fest. Well, maybe not. It might be a shooting fest with the keepers stopping a lot.
Yeah.
But I do hope Liverpool win, and I hope Liverpool is at full strength. I want to see Van Dijk against Benzema. That would be awesome. I want to see the heavyweights in there on the teams. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? How would you feel would the treble and the Champions League, would that kind of wash the pain away
Oh,
of
absolutely.
the Premier
Yeah.
League?
I mean,
Okay, good.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it would for me.
I wasn't really expecting any of this, to be honest, just because like the start of the season, I didn't know how Van Dijk was going to bounce back from a knee injury. I
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
worried that Salah and Mane were going to be exhausted after AFCON, and they were able to actually bring in Diaz to kind of help with that. Um, uh, the fact that Thiago and really Naby Keita has had a really good second half of the season, but I didn't expect Thiago to be able to go as long as he has without injury. And my thinking is if Thiago and Fabinho are good to go, I do think they'll be able to win. I do think they'll have enough, especially if
Hmm.
Cruz plays instead of Camavinga. Ancelotti's been doing that kind of. He's been playing Cruz a lot in these games, and he's been
Yes,
bringing
yeah.
Camavinga on to kind of save them in some of
Hmm.
these. Um,
Yeah.
but I have they've because Real Madrid are all of a sudden linked to Chouameni. I really there's like extra incentive to want to beat them. Florentino Perez tried to ruin football with the Super League just a year ago. Don't want them
Mhm.
to turn around and just win the Champions League.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
you know, they La Liga and that president just like tried to call foul about PSG when they've been trying to do all of this themselves.
Yeah.
I've gotten to a point where I don't like Real Madrid, and so I don't know. It would definitely be if Liverpool do it. I mean that'll be absolutely wonderful. If he don't, this will be a rough 2 weeks. I mentioned how I've had so much fun. This entire season. That would be such a
Mhm.
bitter pill to swallow to end
Ugh.
it that way. That said,
Yeah, true.
I have had a ton of fun watching this team. It's possible the last time we'll see Salah, Mane, and Firmino on at the same time.
Yeah.
There is a lot of speculation that the one of those three, maybe even two of those three, might be moving this summer because they're both kind of
Ooh.
getting they're both over 30 and they're both getting to the last couple years of their contract.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, another thing to say is you one of the one of the unsung heroes for the last couple seasons has been Divock Origi. Uh, you know, he apparently has played his last game because he apparently picked up an injury. He got sent off in that final home game for Anfield. He's off his way to AC Milan. And for only being 27, I think AC Milan's getting a really good player, and he'll be able to
Yeah.
play Champions League. So
Oh yeah.
good for him. And it's been Origi was Mr. Reliable in the Champions League, and he for some reason really hated Everton. He scored like 30% of his goals versus Everton. Um, so I just wanted to get that out there, and I don't know. Just real quickly, we should say that the Conference League happened yesterday as well. I don't know if you saw it, but your Roma won a title, and I didn't realize it was the first European title they had won. Um,
Ugh.
they beat Feyenoord 1-0 by Nicola Zaniolo. Josie finally gets it, or Josie gets his trophy, which he normally does when he goes to clubs. The only one I guess he didn't was Spurs, but he got them to a final.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I saw something where like his record in finals in Europe is really good.
it is very good.
So experience kind of maybe proved right here. I don't know, but Alex is watching too, and I was kind of he was like no love for Roma, but I mean. I do like Roma, but I really don't like Jose Mourinho. I feel like he is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah,
So for me, like it's nice for them to win the Conference League, I guess.
football was awful. I actually watched the game.
Yeah,
I mean,
it wasn't it
they
wasn't pretty.
their keeper was man of the match because he made
Yeah,
like 5 saves in the second half. Just
and Smalling was good, but
Roma got the goal and they sat back.
and they have a bunch of attacking players. Abraham
Yeah,
Schmerdorf on the bench, like, but yeah, I mean, I kind of just feel like it is a matter of time before they implode because Mourinho is their coach.
shoot.
But yeah, the trophy's nice, but it'll go to Jose's ego more, add to it, which is already massive. His head can't get any bigger.
And once again, my computer is down on battery. One thing I do want to get out is the UEFA Women's Champions League final also happened. It was a rematch of the 2019 final between Barca and Lyon. Barca does not go on to repeat as champions because they won it last year. But one thing I wanted to say is Ada, I want to say her name right, Hergerberg, uh, was able to get a goal, and I remember seeing the name because she was a former Ballon d'Or winner, but also at 26, she's actually got the record holder for most Champions League goals for women at 59.
Ooh.
And what's big about her is she had a really bad ACL injury, and she almost missed 2 years out of her. Yeah, she missed the last 2 years essentially, and so it's good to see her recover. And I guess it's maybe because she was out, maybe that's why Barcelona was able to win last year because Leon were able to bounce back with her. So she plays for Norway, I think. But yeah,
Yeah.
I remember when she got hurt because I think she missed out on the it wasn't just the Olympics. I think she missed out on the World Cup when that happened.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
just wanted to get that out there. Alex texted a clip of
Kudos
one of the
to
goals, which was
yeah.
amazing. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and with the championship final is on Sunday with Huddersfield versus Forest. And so that said, my computer
Ooh.
is about to die. So Rex, do you got any closing thoughts you want to say, or
No, just excited for the Champions League. Kind of excited for the summer too. I wish there was like a big summer tournament to watch because we'll be a little skimpy
yep.
on the football. But that being said, I think the transfer window is going to be incredible. Hopefully, so stay tuned for that.
All right, and I'll echo those thoughts and say thanks again for joining us. We are the reserve squad. We'll call it the midweek edition. We normally have two others joining us. But yeah, that said, I'm going to I guess close. I guess end it on that note. So Rex, you want to throw us out? So one, two,
Hey,
three.
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for watching. Join us with the real four, the true four, I guess, the full team, sometime next week. But Thanks for listening, everybody. And ladies and gentlemen, you stay squatty. Giggity goo.
And stop recording.